What's going on, everyone? It's Alex here. After taking a full 24 hours to really let everything sink in, looking back at the events of this past Sunday and just trying to wrap my head around what transpired, I've seen a plethora of different viewpoints circulating about what went down. I believe it was on Friday. This was, without a doubt, a once-in-a-lifetime, a true unicorn event. I have never in my years of being involved in this space witnessed anything of this magnitude, especially concerning the sheer volume of liquidations we saw. The internet is buzzing with countless individuals claiming that this was a coordinated scam, that we witnessed fraud at its most blatant. The theories are flying around about insider trading, about market participants being deliberately liquidated through calculated manipulation. I want you to know that I hear you, and I understand the anger and suspicion. I'm going to be completely transparent with you all. I lost virtually my entire portfolio dedicated to leverage trading. Now, before anyone panics, let me clarify that this was not my entire cryptocurrency portfolio. A core principle of my investment strategy has always been diversification. I never, ever consolidate all of my holdings onto a single platform, especially not for leverage trading. The reason for this is simple. If you're engaging in cross-leverage trading, the platform can and will dip into your other assets to cover your losses until you have absolutely nothing left, or even worse, you end up owing them money. I've always prided myself on being a cautious trader. I'm the type of person who religiously sets stop losses on every single trade. However, this was a scenario where it didn't matter if you had a stop loss in place. The market moved with such velocity that it blew right through those stop losses, and you ended up losing everything regardless. So, while I thought I was adequately protected, a belief reinforced by years of successful trading without encountering such a black swan event, the reality was that no one was as safe as they believed. When the market moves that fast, your orders simply can't get filled at your desired prices. Instead, they get filled at the earliest possible price the platform can find, which often means they can still drain the rest of your account even though you explicitly stated, "Hey, I want to exit my position at this price." The hard truth is that that price point effectively ceased to exist in the blink of an eye. In this discussion, I'm going to break down how I lost my entire leverage trading portfolio and how I'm now essentially starting from square one in that particular arena. I'm fully aware that there are probably people in the comments section and across social media right now saying, "Haha, I told you so." That leverage trading is a fool's game that always ends in disaster. And honestly, under normal market conditions, what happened shouldn't have been possible. We'll delve into the potential explanations for this unprecedented event, but it's also important to acknowledge that some aspects of it remain genuinely unexplainable. So if you could all do me a huge favor and hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell for more videos like this, I would greatly appreciate it. Also, be sure to check out some of the links I've provided in the description below. It's a great way to support the channel. And if you're interested in exploring leverage trading platforms, feel free to use my link for BTCC. Now I know what you're probably thinking. Alex, why on earth are you promoting a leverage trading platform after you just told us you lost your entire portfolio? It's a fair question. The reason is that I started that particular account with a modest $500, and I'm currently sitting at around $800. So I'm still in the green with that specific platform. The liquidation event wiped out the significant profits I had accumulated, taking me from a high of around $6,000 down to a very small remaining balance. I'll explain the specifics of why I was left with anything at all in a bit. So once again, hit the like button, subscribe, and check out my BTCC link down below if you're interested in learning some techniques for engaging in less risky leverage trading and developing the resilience to withstand an event like this, rather than succumbing to panic, or, even worse, having your positions liquidated at prices so far from your entry that you end up owing the platform a substantial amount of money. The link is at the very top of the description. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty of what happened. For those of you who may not be aware, there was a staggering amount of liquidations. I believe the final tally for October 10th was somewhere in the ballpark of $16 billion in long liquidations alone. That is an absolutely catastrophic number. It's horrifying to witness that level of financial destruction in such a short period. We've seen billion-dollar liquidation events before, maybe even $2 billion on a particularly volatile day. But to see $16 billion worth of long positions wiped out is pure, unadulterated chaos. It's utterly insane. And when you look at the price levels that were reached, it's almost understandable. I remember looking at my positions and thinking to myself that there was absolutely no conceivable way the prices would ever reach my liquidation points. It seemed like an impossibility. Yes, we expect to see significant drops in a bear market, but the consensus was that we were still in a bull market. To see that kind of rapid, violent downturn in the midst of what was still perceived as a bullish cycle was mind-boggling. It's one thing to see prices bleed out over weeks or months, but to see it happen in a matter of hours is a different beast entirely. It's the speed of the collapse that was so shocking. To see prices plummet to such depths, knowing that there was still a significant amount of buying pressure and positive sentiment in the market, is what really grinds my gears. Why the precipitous drop? That's the million-dollar question. If we take a look at the broader market, for instance, on CoinMarketCap, the total cryptocurrency market cap is currently sitting at around $3.94 trillion, even after the cataclysmic events of the 10th. We've seen a remarkable recovery in many assets, especially when you look at something like BNB, which is up by 16.33% on the day and 12% over the past 7 days, while many other major cryptocurrencies are still down by 7%, 8%, 12%, or even 15%. Bitcoin has clawed its way back up to $115,000, and Ethereum is hovering around the $4,200 mark. BNB even managed to reach a new all-time high in the aftermath. However, you have other assets that are still struggling to recover. XRP, for example, is up by a respectable 10% or 11%, but it's still only at $2.63, a far cry from the $2.80 or even the $3 level it was at before the crash. Now, if we look at a specific example, and this is probably one of the most egregious cases I saw, let's take a look at Sway. The price action on this particular asset was so extreme that it doesn't even accurately reflect the lowest price it actually hit on some exchanges. If I pull up my BTCC account, and they use TradingView for their charting so you can get a very clear picture of what happened, I'm going to navigate to the Markets tab, select BTC, and then type in Sway. What you're about to see is the lowest price this asset reached during that period. Let me just zoom out and adjust the chart here. If we look closely, the absolute bottom for Sway was 58 cents. This is an asset that was trading at a high of $3.45. Let that sink in for a moment. From $3.45 to 58 cents. This is a level of depreciation that you wouldn't even expect to see in the depths of a brutal bear market. To see an asset fall from, let's just be conservative and say $3, all the way down to 58 cents is simply unheard of. Typically in a bear market, you might see a 70% correction, but this was something else entirely. A drop of this magnitude has to be the result of clear and undeniable manipulation. There had to be a massive amount of money moving behind the scenes to orchestrate a price movement of this scale. I'm always one to try and find a rational explanation for market movements. I'm usually the first to say, hey, this is just the nature of cryptocurrency. You have sell-offs triggered by negative news, and then you have a cascade of liquidations as a result. But this was far more than that. This was more than just a simple sell-off and subsequent liquidations. Even if you had a wave of panic selling that caused a 20% drop in a particular asset, you wouldn't see this many liquidations. Do I think it's possible that the initial fear and panic selling triggered a chain reaction of liquidations, creating a liquidation train? Absolutely. That's a plausible scenario. When one large liquidation occurs, it can push the price down to the next level of liquidations, which then triggers another, and so on. I always knew that we were due for a significant liquidation event at some point, but I never in my wildest dreams imagined that we would see a price for a popular, top-tier cryptocurrency like Sway go from $3 all the way down to 58 cents. And then, to add insult to injury, it didn't stay at that 58-cent level or even anywhere near it. As of right now, it's back up to $2.85. The fact that it went from $3 to 58 cents and then back up to $2.85 just a few days later doesn't sit right with me. It reeks of something unnatural. It's these kinds of unexplainable price movements that are so unsettling. While you can look at Bitcoin's drop from, say, $120,000 down to $105,000 and say, okay, that's a significant drop, but it's within the realm of possibility. The drop in Sway was on a completely different level. Even if Bitcoin had dropped to $80,000, it still wouldn't be as significant a percentage drop as what we saw with Sway. We expect to see a certain level of volatility with major cryptocurrencies, but Sway is also a top crypto position, and it still experienced a drop of that magnitude. I don't even have the exact percentage off the top of my head, but it's an astronomical number. It's just crazy to see it fall that low. Now let's talk about my own positions. I had about 10 different positions open in my account at the time. I'm a huge advocate for using stop losses, as you can see in the positions I currently have open, where I'm up 40% and 61% respectively. I have stop losses in place for both of them. I'm comfortable with the idea of losing the entirety of the capital I've put into a trade. That's my general approach to leverage trading, and it's a strategy that has been quite profitable for me over the years. I had a few positions that I was confident would not get liquidated, no matter how far the market dropped. One of those was my OKB position. I was using 3x leverage, which means the price would have had to drop by 33% from my entry point for me to be liquidated. I had bought OKB at around $90, and it had run all the way up to over $250. I was up thousands of dollars on that single position. My ADA position was another one that I was sure was safe. However, what ended up happening was that my other positions, the ones with stop losses that were triggered, had to be covered, and the only way to do that was to take from my profitable positions. Let me explain how this works. When you set a stop loss, you're essentially placing a limit order. When the price hits that order, the platform is supposed to sell at that price. However, if the price moves so quickly that it gaps down past your stop loss price, your order doesn't get filled. Instead, the platform sells at the next available price, which could be significantly lower. This means that you end up losing more than what you had initially risked. In my case, since I didn't have any additional funds in my account to cover these excess losses, the platform was forced to pull from my open, profitable positions. These positions were then force liquidated to cover the losses from my other trades. For example, let's say I had a position in an asset that was trading at $1, and I had set my stop loss at 75 cents, which was my liquidation price for the capital I had invested in that particular trade. What happened was that the price dropped to around 78 cents, and then, in an instant, it plunged to 40 cents. So you have this huge gap between my stop loss at 75 cents and the actual price. My order ended up getting filled at, let's say, 60 cents, instead of the 75-cent level I had intended. This meant that I had incurred a much larger loss than I had planned for, and the platform had to liquidate my profitable positions to cover the difference. Even my positions that had no realistic chance of being liquidated on their own were affected. This happened even with isolated leverage, where the platform is only supposed to be able to pull from the margin you've allocated to that specific trade. The exchanges were struggling to cover the losses across the board, and as a result, we saw forced liquidations happening everywhere. This is where it became a really major problem. These forced liquidations, many of which were on positions with relatively low leverage, like 2x, 3x, or 5x, created a domino effect. One liquidation would trigger the next, and so on, creating a liquidation train that just kept going until it ran out of fuel. This is what makes leverage trading in such a speculative market so incredibly difficult. Despite all of this, I'm not deterred. I'm not concerned at all. That's why I jumped right back into the market. I went from having $6,000 in this account down to just $300. And honestly, I'm grateful that I even had $300 left after everything that happened. The platform pulled from positions that, even though they had experienced a significant drop, were still up by thousands of dollars. There are people out there who lost millions of dollars, not just in leverage trading, but in their entire portfolios, because their profitable positions were liquidated to cover losses from their leveraged trades. This is why I am so adamant about being protective of my capital. I enjoy leverage trading, and I will continue to do it, but I never mix my different investment strategies. People ask me all the time, Alex, why don't you just leverage trade on the same platforms where you hold the majority of your assets? For example, I believe you can do futures trading on Coinbase now. People ask why I don't just do it there. I believe you can also leverage trade on other popular platforms. The reason I don't is because I make a concerted effort to compartmentalize my investments. I have my long-term, forever, holdings over here, my spot trading positions over there, and my leverage trading portfolio in a completely separate account. If you are not already utilizing multiple platforms to segregate your different investment activities, you need to change that immediately. Events like this can and will happen, and if you're only using one platform for everything and you're using cross-leverage, the platform will not hesitate to pull from your profitable positions to cover your losses. You will experience a forced liquidation, not just a regular one. If you're under the impression that you can only lose the money that you've invested in a particular trade, you are sorely mistaken. The losses can and will spill over to your other holdings. I am so incredibly thankful that I have my assets spread out and that I own a significant amount of cryptocurrency outright, separate from my leverage trading activities. So to sum it all up, I'm not a fan of what happened. I've never seen anything like it in my life, and there are still some aspects of it that are completely unexplainable. However, I am still a big believer in the potential of leverage trading. It's a powerful tool that allows you to make a significant amount of money with a relatively small amount of capital. I would love to hear your thoughts on all of this. Please, let me know what you think in the comments section below. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. I just wanted to get this video out there and share my experience with you all. We'll probably be doing a live stream around this time, and then I'll post another video later on, so hopefully you'll have a chance to catch that. In the meantime, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. This has been an absolutely insane week, and I'll catch you in the next one. See you.